Hi, welcome back to It's So Friday. Yay! Anyway, today we're going to be making a backpack using our backpack tutorial that you can find for free on our website, www.robertkaufman.com, or on the link in this post. We're going to be using Sevenberry Canvas, and just to give you an idea for what it looks like when it's finished, we have made one here. So it's a really cute little drawstring backpack. Works great, just the right size for like a camping trip. Maybe not a camping trip, but a trip to the library, or like the kind of camping trip I go on where I like take a water bottle and then like go for a walk for 5 minutes and then I'm very tired and come home. So anyway, for this bag, you're going to need, we're using a lightweight canvas. You could use cotton, you could interface it to give it a little bit more of a stiff, like workable, you know, you don't want stuff to fall through your bag, like if you were to put scissors in your bag or something. Don't put scissors in your bag though. So we've already pre-cut our pieces, but you're also going to need cording for the straps, a pair of scissors. We're using our Kai shears, they're quite sharp. If you have something to pull your cording through a drawstring, use that tool. Otherwise, a handy dandy safety pin will work well. And we also have some tape here for a trick we're going to be showing you. And of course, you're going to need your ruler to cut out your pieces. We're using our Omni Grip ruler. I just really like how easy it is to see through the fabric and where I'm cutting. I make fewer cutting errors when I'm using this. So we'll get right started, or we'll get right to it. First things first, we've already cut the pieces, and so first we're just going to stitch the pocket. And on this backpack we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and so we're just going to take our rectangle of fabric and fold it right sides together, lining up all the edges. And in this project, anytime we start or stop, we're going to just go forward a few stitches, back a few stitches, and then forward a few stitches again. And we are going to stitch almost all the way around, leaving a 4-inch space, about 4-inch spaces, so we can turn it. And so, whoa, I had a box leaning up against my machine. It was making a very special noise. Okay, so here we go. I'm making the outside pocket for the backpack. So, and if it makes you more comfortable, feel free to pin while you're doing this. I tend to not pin, but if you are more comfortable pinning, then by all means pin away. And so I'm going to stop. I'm not going to sew all the way to the end. And you see I have this big gap here, but I want to actually stitch just a little bit more and leave the gap towards the middle. So I'm going to leave a space of about 4 inches and then sew some more. And again, just going back a few stitches when I reach my edge. All right. So now I have my pocket and I'm ready to turn. Like tip, if you want, you can just kind of clip your corners, just the tiny little corners. Be careful not to clip off your seams. And on this corner especially, be careful that you don't clip through the edge, because this is the unsewn edge that's the fold. But this will help when you turn to press your points nice and out. So you're just going to reach right in and turn, 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 turn. If you have anything around you like a chopstick or a turning tool that has like a little bit of a point, or like a mechanical pencil that, or your finger, mechanical pencil. I mean, you can use your finger, but like my finger obviously doesn't have like a super sharp point on it, and so it's hard to get that super crisp corner. But if I use like a pen, then I can kind of really get a nice crisp point. Doo, 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 doo. So sharp. Okay. And that's 3 corners, and then 1 more corner. And if you're using a pen or a pencil, just be careful that you don't push it through your fabric. That's always a risk. All right, so now you have this nice pocket with a little bit of your gap here. And what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of finger press this in a 1/4 inch so that it matches your seam allowance, and then you're going to iron it flat. And I'm going to pass this over to my ironer. It'll be like on those cooking shows where they put the chicken in the oven and then like a second later it comes out a fully cooked chicken. This is that. So in the meantime, while that's happening, we are going to prep our second piece, which is the body of our backpack. This is a 15-inch by 42-inch piece of fabric, so it's quite long. And so on the short edges, what you're going to do is you're going to, well, the instructions call for you to fold this in 1/2 inch and then fold it in another inch, which creates the casing for you to have your drawstring through it. And so if you do it this way, it works. Where did my backpack go? But what you'll end up having in the finished product is an unfinished seam right here on the edge, which isn't bad, and it won't create any problems for the actual structure of the bag. But if you prefer to have your seams finished, then we're just going to do this quick neat trick. So here, you're just going to clip 1.5 inches. Like, you're going to mark 1.5 inches down on each of the sides. So using my ruler, I'm just going to quickly do like a little notch and only about 1/2 inch in. Mark right there. So now I have 2 marks that are 1.5 inches down and go about 1/2 inch in. And you're just going to use your scissors and very carefully clip just to the end of that 1/2 inch. Don't do any further, otherwise it's going to be a little strange. And then repeat that on the opposite side as well. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, 1/2 inch. And I'm using a water-soluble pen or a heat-soluble pen, just something where the mark isn't permanent on your fabric and will disappear when you iron or get it damp. So now that I've clipped, I'm just going to turn this under the 1/2 inch, and then, let's see, did I clip at the right spot then? 1/2 inch, and then if I throw it in 1 inch, or did I do it too high up? It's 3 inches. I clipped it too high up. It'll be okay, probably. We'll see. Anyway. Everyone makes mistakes. We're just going to power through. 3 inches. Do that at 3 inches.
Keep in mind it is Friday. We're all a bit fried.
Friday. So. Friday doesn't even mean that we get to eat French fries for lunch either. It just means that it's the last day of the work week. But can you imagine if every Friday was also French Fry Friday? I think Yael would be really happy. Did I do it at the wrong spot? Oh, okay. I have, I will call them art directors here. So this pattern was designed for free by Ariga, and she works here in our marketing team. And so as she observes me, it's kind of like watching, like the designer watch you make her pattern and be like, you're doing this. So if I'm doing something wrong, please tell me, Ariga. She's just laughing. Anyway, so now that I've done this 1/2 inch, I'm going to fold down about 1 inch. And oh, you know what? 3 inches. That works. Okay. Now, in the pattern, you can iron. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Ariga. Okay. You're going, now that you've clipped, you're going to fold your edges in like this. So you can see. And that means, and since I'm not ironing right now, I'm going to pin. And since I did that extra special little cut, I'm going to pin twice. Okay. And that means, okay. So then I'm going to fold down 1/2 inch, fold down again, and now I'm going to pin. And if you didn't do that extra special little cut there, then you're not going to have any problems with this because it's going to be just right and you won't have any kind of weird fabric tucking out here like I do, but no one needs to know. Okay, so this is a live video. You all know. Sewing mistakes happen. You just work right through them. And now we're just going to top stitch along that fold where you've already folded 1/2 inch, you fold the other inch, you've turned your corners in before you folded, and now we're stitching. It's like speed bumps here. Okay. And if you pin, just be careful not to stab yourself with your pin. That's always no fun. And you should definitely start and stop at the beginnings, just because here there will be some pressure on the fabric. And since I didn't do that in the beginning, I'm just going to go ahead and re-stitch over that. Okay. So you end up with a side that looks like this. Your edges are in and they're all finished lovely, and this is still your seam allowance for the rest of the bag. And now we're going to just repeat that on the other side. And fold down about 1/2 inch and then fold down another inch. And I'm going to pin this and then fix that other side. Well, maybe I'm gonna... Okay. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section, and we'll be answering them towards the end of the session. And if you're just joining us, we are currently making the Drawstring backpack. It's a free pattern on Robert Kaufman's website, and it's just a great, really quick, fun project to make for a weekend, or if you are sewing with kids and they want a fun project to make, this is a really great beginner project that's just very satisfying. Okay. My foot pedal is getting stuck on something. Let me see what's going on. Okay, we're back in business. So now you have two sides that look like this. And so what you're going to do is, with your right sides together, no, before you do that, you're going to attach your pocket. Now, you have your pocket, and you have the piece that's been all ironed like magic. And the piece that's open is going to be the bottom of the pocket, because that way when you stitch it, it will stitch closed that bottom. So what I like to do to mark the center point is to just fold in half, kind of finger press, and then use my little water soluble or heat soluble marker to just mark the midpoint there on the top. And for this guy, I'm going to mark just about 8 inches from the top. Maybe I'll go like a 7.5. Pocket placement is personal preference. Let me just double check kind of where that's going to lay. Maybe I'll just go like a 7, since I already folded this. So now I'm going to mark that line. That's where I want the top of my pocket to be. And since this piece is 15 inches across, I'm going to mark the midpoint at 7.5. Using my ruler here to just make sure that I'm not just guessing where the middle is, because I'm not good at guessing where the middle is. Whoa. Flying fabric. And now that I have my midpoint all lined up, I'm just going to set my pocket right on top and along that line that I drew and marking my midpoints, and I'm going to pin real quick so that I know that it's in the right spot. And now in the directions, it calls for you to just stitch on all 3 sides of this. Now, if you are like me and you are constantly taking things in and out of your pocket and you want to add just a little bit of extra stability, you can also do like a little extra little triangle at the top as a stitch line. So I've kind of just drawn it on in red here so you can see what I'm talking about. And so I'm going to stitch along this line that I drew before stitching on all 3 sides, and then finish with the same kind of shape, because that will help reinforce my pocket. So starting and stopping just a little bit, and when you pivot, make sure your needle is down and you just turn your project. That way you don't lose where you're at. Pivot and then stitch. And we're stitching close to the edge of your pocket. You don't need to leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this, since you've already made sure all your seams are encased here. All right. And now down to the last row. And we're just going to pivot and make that little triangle shape on the other side, again to reinforce the pocket. And you only need to do like 2 or 3 stitches. It doesn't need to be a really big triangle. And then just stitch back to your stitching line and then reverse stitch again. And voila, now you have a pocket. So, as you can see, now we clearly have the front of our bag with our little pocket, and we're ready to make the body of the bag. So at this point, you're going to fold these right sides together, and you can see we've matched this. And here you're going to sew all along this seam until you get to about 1 inch from the bottom. So what is helpful here, I find, is just to mark with a pin where about 1 inch is from the edge. It doesn't need to be a precise science. This is just where you're going to end up putting your backpack strap, so you do need to leave that open to close later. And if it helps you to pin, definitely pin. I'm just going to quickly put a pin towards the top so that it doesn't shift around. And doing the same thing on both sides. And then I'm just going to sew. So I'm going to start at the bottom and put my foot down so that my needle is going down right where my pin marked, and I'm taking out my pin before I start sewing so that I don't accidentally sew through my pin and break a needle and have to find replacement needles. And we've all been there. All right. And again, just start and stop a few times. And now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so now before you do anything else, you have your sides of your bag put together. You can see the insides. You've left these lovely holes here at the bottom. You are going to need to cut your cording. Now, you've bought 4 yards of cording, and so depending on what kind you get, mine is more of like this decorative woven, and so what you'll find is that if you just cut this without doing anything to prevent it, it will go like explode in all these collections of strands of fabric woven together. So first things first, what I'm going to do is find the 2 ends here and match them, and then all the way over so that I can find the midpoint here. So I know this is the middle, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Scotch tape and just tape around both sides of the middle so that when you cut it, the tape keeps it from exploding on you. And the tape doesn't need to be super fancy or anything. You're just going to be able to cut it off later. It won't be sewn into your project and it won't be there permanently. And then again, just double check that your length is the same. If you're making this backpack for kids and you size it down, you probably don't need 4 yards or 2 yards per strap or 4 yards total. But if you are making for an adult, you're going to want full 4 yards. For kids, it's probably like 3 yards. So now you've found your new midpoint and you're just going to cut that right in half, and look at that, it stays so nice. Okay, now if you have a tool to pull your cording through the casing, I would get that out, but if not, I'm going to use my safety pin and I'm going to just put it right through my cording. I just put it slightly underneath the tape. I don't want to risk tearing the tape off. And so you're going to start on one side and just lead it through the casing, and you're just going to kind of gently push it and then pull the casing over. And this is the same process you would use for any kind of drawstring bag. So it should feel familiar. But if you've never done this before, it's quick and it's easy and it's a lot of fun. And then you're going to pull not all the way through, but enough where you can have some room to put it through the back side of the casing. So now it's in the front side and you want to just loop it right through the back. And cording is helpful because it's not going to fall apart, but you could also make your own straps with fabric if you wanted. The only thing that could happen there is that your stitching could pop with a lot of extra wear and tear on it. So now that you've pulled this through, you're going to pull this until it's about even and take off your safety pin. And now you're just going to take your two pieces and you're going to match the ends and then tie a knot. Okay, I like to kind of pull on that knot, and it's okay if the tape is a little higher up. After we kind of get it stitched in, I'll show you how to take that out. Okay, so the next step is you're going to take this nice drawstring that you have and you're going to put it inside the bag, and on the side that it is coming out on, so these are both coming out on this side, you're going to bring it down to the corner of that same side and just pop your little extra piece through there, just like this. So you can't see it now, but it's going through the inside of the bag out to the corner, and you're just going to kind of line that up at the bottom there so that the knot is just a little further out, and you're going to stitch over here to keep that in place. And that's going to be the bottom corner of your backpack. When you stitch this, be careful. I kind of have my fingers really closer to my needle to kind of help guide the bulky piece through, but make sure that you're going back and forth several times over this, because that will be a pressure point or a tension point for your bag. So now that you've got this in and it's been thoroughly stitched over, now you can take your scissors and just cut off the pieces with the tape. And as you can see, this is what happens if you were to cut that without having the tape there. So it's nice to have that tape. And if you want, you could leave the tape on, but if you ever plan on just throwing this in the washer, you probably want to take the tape off. I don't think it does well in the dryer. The other thing you could do is you could always just use like a little bit of clear nail polish to try and keep those fibers together. But for now, we're just going to do the other side. So you still have to repeat that same process with the other side, except when you started on this side to begin with to thread through, this time you're going to start on this side so that the knot finishes over here. So using our safety pin and our second piece of cording, we're just going to repeat this process all over again. You might find it's a little trickier to do this the second time because the cording is already, or one piece of cording is already in the casing, but that's why you don't want to change how big that casing is, because if you were to make it smaller, it'd make it even trickier to get the cording through. Plus you want to make sure that there's ease of movement, because that's what's going to make your drawstring backpack just so easy to open and close. Okay, so we're halfway. Whoa. And we're going to repeat this on the back side. This is a great thing to do while you're like watching TV or you know, just like trying to kill some time, because like if you're going to chain produce these, like make like 15 of them, this is something you could do in the car or kind of anywhere. It's pretty quick and easy. Okay, so now we're back to this step again. We want to just line up our ends and tie a knot again. Okay, and make sure that you're giving that knot a pretty good pull so that it's not going to come undone. It's not going to. And then again, just straight back through to the other bottom corner and just pop this back out. Pop. And then you're going to stitch over, stitched in place. And make sure again that you're going forward and backward over the stitching to keep it really secure. Okay. And now, again, you're just going to just chop off those taped ends. And Then you reach into your bag and you grab the bottom corners and you go, and you have to do the sound effects. It's very important. And then you have a backpack. Yay!
You want to model it?
Oh, yes. Oh, and if you, the marks I have on here are just, again, mine are heat soluble, so if I press it with an iron, it's going to go away. But in the meantime, whoa, I have this lovely backpack.
Do a little twirl. Thank you.
And it's a really wonderful size for all your stuff. So here I have, you know, this backpack here, and I can fit my water bottle, my family-sized box of Cheez-Its. They fit in there. Not saying that I'm going to share, but you know, the option. You can fit like a little toy in there. He's like, oh hi, it's so Friday. And you could even fit like a backup backpack in there too. You could just like, so that when everyone goes, man, I love your backpack, where can I get one? You can be like, I have another backpack in my backpack. Then you can lend it out. It's really great. And then you can always, you know, put things in your little pocket here too. You can put like a pen, you know, not recommended, but like you could put a rotary cutter. Anyway, so it's really great for a lot of different things. And again, you'll see just that drawstring is the open close, so when you're wearing it, your backpack isn't going to flop open, which is really lovely too. And you can just see just how your fabric choices really dramatically impact the overall look of the finished bag. So you can have a more sophisticated grown-up version, maybe for the folks in your life who don't like wearing as much color or just really want to have something that's very simple. And then for the people that love color and just like want to go all out with patterns, you can have polka dots, you can have flowers. I mean, you could do all sorts of things with this. So thank you for joining us for It's So Friday in our backpack. And if there are any questions, again, we'll answer them in your comments, and we'll see you next week with another fun project.